I don't know why anyone would take the experience of not eating or drinking anything for 25 hours and call it fast. It feels like forever. Greetings, Hero. It is I, your friendly neighborhood rabbi, and I'm here today to talk to you about fasting on Yom Kippur. I'm going to give you some of my personal tips for how to get through it if this is something that you're doing this year. Perhaps more importantly, for your safety, I'm going to teach you what Jewish law and tradition has to say about when you should not fast on Yom Kippur. Before we get into that, for anyone who's just joining us, you should know that this video is part of a 31-day fall Jewish holiday challenge. That's 31 videos covering the ins and outs of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, all the time leading up preparing for it, all the little things that we do on those days and in between. I made these videos for you so that being informed, you can have the most meaningful and joyful experience of these holidays. If you want to get hooked up with that, just click on the first link you see in the show notes below. You'll get a downloadable guide to all the major Jewish holidays this year and links to all 31 of these lessons. Finally, if you join before the end of August, you'll be eligible to win a prize. But enough about that, let's get into this important topic of how to fast, but first, when not to. I may use the word doctor a lot in this video. One of the core principles of Jewish law is derived from a verse in the book of Leviticus or Vayikra. That's chapter 18, verse 5, where it says that people should keep God's statutes and laws in order that we may live by them. And through our oral tradition, as written down in the Mishnah and the Talmud, the rabbis deduce from this verse that the law was given to us to live by and not to die from. And from that, they deduced a very important legal principle known as pikuach nefesh, or saving a life. And by this principle, just about any mitzvah in the Torah, with a couple of rare exceptions, can be set aside in order to save a life, your own or someone else's. This includes fasting on Yom Kippur. So if you're planning for Yom Kippur and you say, I really want to fast because that's what it says to do, but you're worried that you may not be physically capable of it or that it might be medically dangerous for you, reconsider fasting. In Jewish law, it goes so far as to state that if a doctor has told you that you shouldn't fast, that it might jeopardize your health, not only are you permitted to not fast, you are forbidden from doing so. So if a doctor says, if you fast, you're going to die, and you'd be like, I don't need no doctors, I'm too tough for that. By fasting under those circumstances, you are actually breaking Jewish law, even if you feel like you'll be okay. And even if the doctor's like, well, you're probably not gonna die, but your condition could get worse, and that might make you die, don't fast. Seriously, people, safety first. And I say that because I know there are people out there who really want to participate fully in this holiday and participate in solidarity with the other people in their community who are fasting, and they may feel guilty about eating when other people aren't. This holiday isn't intended to kill you. And by doctor's advice, it could even mean that if it says on your pill bottle, needs to be taken with food or needs to be taken with water, follow your doctor's advice. And God willing, you'll be healthier another year and then you can fast. I want this to be a meaningful Yom Kippur for you, but I don't want it to be your last one, God forbid. Now, if you are intending to fast and you're healthy enough to do so, I'm going to share with you a few personal tips and hacks that I use to get through what can be a challenging day. Remember, I am not a doctor. This is not medical advice. If you have any concerns about your health whatsoever, please consult with your physician. These are just things that I do that I'm not recommending to anybody who can't handle them. This is how I, John Carrier, get through Yom Kippur with as little distraction from the grumblies and my tumblies as possible so that I can focus on the spiritual work of the day for me. Number one, pre-hydrate. You can't hang for the whole prayer service if you get taken off in an ambulance and bagged for dehydration. So what I like to do a day or two ahead of time is start loading up on sports drinks. My favorite, and this is not a paid endorsement, is Blue Powerade. Just me. I took this trick from when I'm running a marathon. I usually super overhydrate the night before, and not without a whole lot of urination. My tissues are completely saturated with water and some minerals that I might lose during the day, and it just makes the whole day more comfortable. With 25 hours of not drinking, you will stop peeing eventually. Didn't say this wasn't going to be a gross video. Number two, protein load. Just as it's a mitzvah to fast on Yom Kippur, it's also considered a mitzvah to have a big meal on the afternoon right before Yom Kippur. This comes from the idea that it's always a good idea to have a big festive meal on a Jewish holiday. But on a Jewish holiday where you can't have a meal, you have a big one right before. There's also a big one right after. And on this big meal, I proportionally like to eat more protein-heavy foods than, say, pasta or bread or anything like that. Because proteins take longer to metabolize, they'll give you more steady energy flow throughout the day, and you're not going to hit that carbohydrate carbohydrate deprivation wall that makes you hangry with people. Y'all know what I'm talking about. No fun being in services like, I really want to forgive you, but I'm so angry with you because I need a candy bar. So prehydrate, protein load. And the third one's a little bit more controversial. If you're a caffeine addict like I am, and you drink a ton of coffee during the day, or Diet Cola, or iced tea, or what have you, I'm not proud. I am the #1 coffee achiever that I know. Pots and pots and pots per day. And that can make Yom Kippur difficult. Even more difficult than it already is. If you're addicted to caffeine and your body craves that caffeine hit to keep you awake and keep you sane and keep you nice to people, you should really take that into consideration, especially if this is your first fast. Now, as I said, this can be controversial because I know at least 2 schools of thought on this. One is that you wean yourself off your caffeine addiction starting many days before Yom Kippur. You gradually decrease your caffeine consumption, and so when the big day comes, you're not missing it as much and the headaches aren't as severe. Which in my mind says if you're a severe caffeine addict and you've already weaned off for a whole day, maybe you should reconsider how much coffee you're drinking. No judgments from me, believe it. The second school of thought here is akin to my overhydrating and overconsumption of protein, and that is doubling down on the coffee, folks. At that big meal right before Yom Kippur, have an extra cup of coffee, have 2 extra cups of coffee, have so much coffee you're grinding your teeth into a fine powder like the sands of the Sinai. You do you. But I and many people I know get through the day not having those caffeine headaches, not getting super upset with people because we've borderline OD'd on caffeine the night before. Again, I am not a doctor. This should be obvious by now. So however you get by without coffee, tea, Diet Cola, whatever, these are 2 different ways that I know of. Your mileage may vary. So those are my tips for surviving your first or your 31st or 61st, 101st fast. Overhydrate beforehand, eat lots of protein, and either wean yourself off caffeine or double it down. But before we end this video, I want to give you a very important idea that we actually read about as the Haftarah on Yom Kippur, and that's from the book of Isaiah chapter 58, which appropriately talks a lot about fasting. And Isaiah, as a prophet and something of a social critic, is there to say to people who are like, I'm fasting, but my life isn't perfect yet, it doesn't work. Isaiah is there to say something to the effect of, the affliction of your body is not the fast that God requires. That is instrumental to making you more empathetic to people who don't have food all the other days of the year. The point of fasting is not necessarily your own personal suffering, but to make you more aware and more empathetic to the suffering of other people, which is an important thing to have in mind as you're planning how you are going to be in the world in the coming year. So take all these tips with a grain of salt, or don't eat any salt at all because it's Yom Kippur. And remember, if there is any chance that you will be put at medical risk by fasting, consult your doctor, and if the doctor says no, don't do it. Hero, thank you so much for watching this whole video with me. I know talking about fasting isn't necessarily fun, but I always have fun learning with you. So if you want to keep learning with me about the Jewish fall holidays, make sure you click on the link in the show notes below, join the 31-day challenge, get a downloadable guide to the holidays, get links to all these lessons I have about the holidays, maybe even win a prize. Or if text links aren't your bag, click on this little picture over here, the orange one. If you're colorblind, the lower square one, to help you get connected with me and other people taking this challenge. And until next time, hero, peace. I really want to forgive you, but I'm so angry with you because I need a candy bar.